So let me give you 16 possible things that motivate or are underneath why we sabotage. So the first for many people in recovery is guilt. Deep down, they have never forgiven themselves for what they've done, some of the terrible things they've done to hurt others. And so they don't truly deep down believe that they deserve a good life. And so whenever good things start to happen, their guilt says you don't deserve this, you should be punishing yourself, and so they sabotage. And then shame, deep shame, which believes I'm not good enough. Once they start to grow and get healthy relationships and get good stuff happening, they go, that's not the real me. I'm a fraud. I'm an imposter. I need to make my circumstances match how I see myself, which is a failure. That way I won't be a fraud. So shame can play a part. Then for many children growing up in complex trauma, whenever good things were happening in the family and there was a time of peace and it looked like somewhat happiness, something bad always happened. The other shoe always dropped. Dad came home drunk, angry, and all hell broke loose. And they began to experience that as a pattern in their life. When things go smoothly, the other shoe's going to drop very soon. Something bad is going to happen. And so now they carry that belief subconsciously into adult life. And when things are going smoothly, their brain is saying, uh-oh, the other shoe is about to drop, so let's just make it happen. Let's get it over with. And they sabotage the good stuff. Third, you can take that to the relationships and what we refer to as the cycle of violence. So in a violent, ongoing relationship, you have the outburst of violence, and in the early days, that is followed by a time of a honeymoon where everybody wants to make up for hurting each other, being angry at each other, and they're on their best behavior. They're very super sweet to each other. But they don't deal with any problems that come up because they're afraid if they point out the problems, it'll take the honeymoon away. So they just stuff everything down, which means pressure starts building. And as pressure builds, it finally gets to a point where there's another outburst, and that's the cycle. So a person who's been in that cycle for a long time, they get past the honeymoon, they start feeling the pressure build, and they go, you know what? Let's just sabotage stuff, push buttons to get the other person angry and violent so we can get back to the honeymoon. So sabotage is their only tool that they know to get back to a honeymoon type relationship. And then for many from complex trauma, they grew up in chaos. They grew up in unpredictability, in things not being consistent. They grew up with emotional dysregulation everywhere, problems everywhere, things not resolved, problems piling up. It was chaos. But that was their normal. So now, when they're out of chaos and they're building a healthy life with a healthy routine, with structure, there's not a lot of chaos. And it feels weird, it feels boring, it can even feel wrong, and it creates a little bit of stress. I don't know what to do with this, and so they sabotage to go back to chaos because that feels normal for them. Somebody has said this, self-sabotage is like a game of mental tug of war. It is the conscious mind versus the subconscious mind, where the subconscious mind always eventually wins. So that early programming, which is your subconscious mind, has tons of power, And if it doesn't like what's happening in the conscious mind in the present day, it will sabotage to bring it back to what it's used to. Next one, anger. So if you think of somebody that you love and you're so angry at them, you want to hurt them because they've hurt you. And so what do you do to hurt them? Well, let's just sabotage my life and fail and mess up. That'll hurt them. That'll break their heart. So I'll hurt them by sabotaging me. And sadly, a lot of people do that. Some grew up in a very rigid religious system that taught that pleasure, too much pleasure, was wrong. It was a sin. You shouldn't be enjoying things so much. You should be only enjoying God. And so, enjoying stuff too much, that was selfish. That was wrong. And so now, for some people coming out of that, when they're going along and enjoying food and sex and activities and enjoying life, they start to feel, I'm sinning. And they sabotage it. But then there's fear. And there's lots of fear behind sabotage behavior. Fear of getting your hopes up. So a child who wants to be loved by dad, but dad keeps being neglectful, abusive, they try to please dad. They try hard to be the perfect child. And dad seems nice and they get their hopes up, and then dad is mean again and their hopes get dashed. They go through that over and over again, but every time they get their hopes up that maybe dad will love me this time, dad neglects them or abuses them. So they realize that what hurt was not just dad neglecting and abusing them, but also that their hopes were dashed again. And so getting your hopes up is dangerous. And so now, as soon as they're in recovery and things are going well, they go, should I start hoping again that my life will finally be a better life? Oh, don't get your hopes up. And so they sabotage just so they don't have their hopes dashed. Then, fear of getting hurt. This relationship is growing, but if it keeps growing, they're going to hurt me at some day, and I don't want to get hurt, so let's just sabotage the relationship now so I never get hurt. Meanwhile, you're hurting yourself. Or fear of failure. This job is going well, but pretty soon I'm pretty sure I'm going to get in a situation where I'm going to fail, so let's just sabotage this job so I never fail. Or fear of success. Your life has been chaos, failure, hardship. Now things are going well. You're being successful in relationships and jobs and parenting. But that feels weird. It's a change. It's unknown territory for you. And you don't like unknown territory because you don't know what to expect, and you might get hurt or you might fail. So success is actually a stressful thing. And so you go to, it's better to live in the hell I know than in the paradise I don't know. So let's sabotage the paradise and go back to the hell I know. Somebody has said this, our biggest enemy is our own self-doubt. We really can achieve extraordinary things in our lives, but we sabotage our greatness because of our fear. And then there's the fear of trusting somebody. So we go into recovery and we've been hurt so much by people we've decided not to trust anybody. But then we realize we can't do this alone. We need relationships, we need support, we need help. But that means trust. And I don't want to go there, so let's just sabotage recovery so I don't have to trust anybody. Another thing that can happen when you come into recovery, when you've come out of chaos, is in recovery, all this new stuff, the unknown is you feel out of control. And you don't like the feeling of not knowing what's going on and not feeling in control. And so you sabotage it to go back to what you think you can control. Your normal, chaos. Another one is just not wanting to sit in uncomfortable emotions. So think of it this way. You meet somebody, and I sit down with you and tell you, before you're going to be able to know if this is the right person for you or not, you're going to have to go through 6 to 12 months of slowly getting to know them. That means 6 to 12 months of sitting in uncertainty, not knowing, the unknown. And that feels unsettling. We don't like that uncomfortable feeling. And so people go, well, if I can't know today, on the first day I met them, whether they're the person or not for me, I'm not willing to sit in the unknown, so I will sabotage that just so I don't have to sit in those uncomfortable feelings. And another one is people come in to recovery and they realize that means responsibilities. I have to take care of my own needs, my physical, emotional, spiritual, relational needs. I need a job. I have to pay bills. I have children who are depending on me. Responsibility. I need to be involved in helping others in service. Responsibility. And if they have trouble saying no, then they can take on too much stuff. And after a while, it can start to feel overwhelming. But instead of disappointing people and saying no and backing out, they go, this is way too much. I don't like all this responsibility. Let's sabotage it all just so I can have a holiday. Just so I can go back to no responsibility. Now, here's what I want you to notice about what I've shown you so far. Do you see that all of those were your limbic brain being uncomfortable? Fear, uncomfortable emotions, guilt, shame, anger. So it's your limbic brain, when it's triggered, that plays a big role subconsciously in getting you to think you should sabotage. And so that limbic brain, we're going to come back to, but I want you to understand this is a limbic brain thing that is happening here when we talk about sabotage. Now let me give you another reason why people sabotage, and it's what we refer to as pain confusion. And so it's thinking, being confused about pain, thinking that bad pain is actually a good thing. So some people grow up where they are made to think that love equals pain. And so, in order to have true love, I need to be in pain. So let's sabotage relationships so there's pain in the relationship. Pain confusion. Others, pain is their normal all their life. They haven't been able to resolve pain. They've lived in pain. And so what they don't realize is when something becomes your normal, there's a certain comfort to it. There's something very familiar that just helps you feel, okay, this is good. And that can happen for some people when it comes to pain. And then another one is a person who's a cutter or a self-harm person. It releases the body's natural opioids, and it makes you feel better. So pain makes you feel better. So if good things are happening, let's self-harm, and that'll make us feel better. Pain confusion. Others from complex trauma have shut down their emotions so much that they just feel dead inside. Empty inside, and they need some pain to feel alive. So let's sabotage because I don't know how to experience and enjoy positive emotions. I just feel dead all the time, but the only thing that makes me feel alive is when I am in pain. Pain, confusion. Others, pain is something I can control. Again, the cutter thinks that. So let's sabotage stuff and create pain because I can manage pain. For others, I've got so much guilt, I need to create pain in order to get justice. I need to punish myself in order to get justice. I need to inflict pain on myself in order to get justice. Pain, confusion there. And then for some, pain gets me attention. So I hate pain, but I like pain because everybody is empathetic towards me and looks up to me, and that becomes the martyr complex that some people have.